exam program manager and core. So I do all of the CLEP and the DSST credit by exams. I pay all the bills. I do all the data analytics and get reports out to people that need it. I also do all the customer service for both vendors. So if there's an issue with service members not receiving scores, they're not going to the right place, they took an exam, can't find it, people come to me, please come to me, and I'll take care of it because I have a direct line with both vendors. A little bit about myself. I am retired Navy. I did 20 years. I was, and this is great, I get to talk to the Coast Guard because you guys know the lingo, know the Navy lingo as well. So I was a damage controlman at first. I got the highest qual I could get there as a fire marshal of the United States ship. I then transferred to Navy recruiting and got bamboozled into going career recruiter. And then there was a program that came about where they wanted career recruiters to go back to sea and be career counselors. So I was one of only 5 people that ponied up for that, and I got to go to a squadron, and so I was a career counselor in keeping people in the Navy and helping them with their, commissioning programs, their educational goals. So I got to do that kind of admin side. So coming from being a firefighter to being admin was kind of a culture shock for me. I made chief from there and went back to recruiting. And then I ended my career or my tour or whatever down here in Pensacola as a senior instructor and senior enlisted leader for the recruiting schoolhouse. So I am a retired senior chief. I love helping sailors or sailors, service members. Like sometimes I'm still stuck on that. But so after that, I was a stay-at-home dad. I have a daughter, so I was a head cheerleading coach. I was a Girl Scout troop leader. And then when she got old enough, she was like, hey, you don't have to stay home with me anymore. You can go back to work. So I was fortunate enough to get a job here at DANTES where I can continue helping service members in any way I can. So that's me. I do both contracts. So I'm going to turn off my camera now so you don't have to look at me while I talk because I'm kind of animated when I do. So and please, if you guys have any questions, put them in the chat. And if I don't get to them while I'm talking and Emily doesn't tell me that they're there, we'll get to them after the end of the presentation. Okay, so I'm going to turn this camera off. All right. Okay, so let me make sure. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the next slide. So, and not going. There it goes. Okay, so we know that the credit by exam program contracts with 2 vendors, College Board for the CLEP and Prometric for the DSST exam. So these are through Department of Defense. We get the money from them, and they're managed by DANTES or me, and we take care of all the things that I talked about a minute ago. However, the Coast Guard's a little different. You guys are Department of Homeland Security, so we can't pay for Coast Guard's exams with DoD money. So what happens is you guys give us, you cut us a check from your budget, and then I use, I provide a volume count or estimation of how many Coast Guard exams I'm going to need for both CLEP and DSST for a 12-month period of performance. And so you guys give me that money, I turn it into basically a bank account where every month you guys take your exams or the Coasties take their exams, and then I get a monthly invoice and pay that for you guys. And then I provide a report up to your guys' leadership and let them know like how many people take the exams. It has the names and everything. So, so here's DANTES in a nutshell. So we are involved in college and career planning. We do the recruiter journey, student support tools. We do the AST for academic skills training for those that might need a little bone up their skills before they actually go to college. We also do the ACE accreditation for schools that military service members go through. And, you know, if they're accredited by ACE, then they get the college credit for certain schools that they attend, like leadership schools, instructor school is another one. So, I mean, there's a plethora of schools out there that are college accredited that service members get and can use when they go to an actual institution. I'm right next to that, college credit by exam, and then career readiness, because all of this stuff helps service members, you know, with their career advancement, and then pathways to civilian transition. So, you know, the education that they receive in the military is, you know, directly related to, you know, their advancement. It was to mine. It helped me advance. And then it actually helps them to be better service members, more educated, and then also helps them, because not everybody retires from the military. So even if they only do 4 to 8 years, they can get out and they have some college behind them. They have a start. They have a basis to do when they get out. So DANTES is here to help them. And I will tell you that even being a recruiter and a career counselor and teaching recruiting and teaching sales and features and benefits, I never taught anything about DANTES. I really didn't even know about DANTES. So we're like one of the best kept secrets ever. And my boss, Gina Perry, we always laugh, like, not laugh, but, you know, we just joke, like, please take our money. Please, service members, we have this money for you. Please use the program and take the money, because it's free, right? We get this money. Please use it. So we definitely love being able to get in contact with counselors, educators, you know, the service headquarters folks, everybody that we can, to say, hey, please push these programs to your service members, because if they don't know about it, there's emails, get on our website, you can call me. I'm going to give you my personal information at the end of this, where, you know, you guys can reach out to me personally and ask questions. And I think I know pretty much everything about DANTES, but if I don't know the answer, I'm going to get you to the right person. So, okay. So, the arrow, action. Okay, so college credit by exam. So 2 exams, the CLEP, you know, stands for College Level Examination Program, and the DSST actually stands for nothing. It's just an acronym. It doesn't mean anything. Way back in the day when DANTES did own it, it did stand for a DANTES subject standard test, but it's been in Prometrics. They've owned it since 2006, so it's just an acronym. It doesn't mean anything. It's not a DANTES test. DANTES doesn't have any tests. So just for everybody's knowledge. So with these exams, you earn college credit for what you already know, and what we mean by that when we say that is, you know, if somebody did really well in school and they were able to, you know, let's say they took, you know, honors English or honors math, and they're really good in math, they can take one of these. They can take a CLEP exam for one of their general education requirements, and just a little bit of preparation from the free study guides they get for the exam when they register. You know, they can use what they've already learned in school to earn that college credit without having to take that class. So that's what that means. You know, what you already know, what you've already been learning, what you already have in your toolbox, right? And these exams satisfy degree requirements, because, you know, if they're trying to get an associate's, they can do the CLEP exam and they can get most of their general education classes knocked out. And then when you're talking about your majors, or you're trying to go for your bachelor's, that's where the DSST comes in. And it has a lot of the major courses that somebody might want to take, like human resource management. If somebody wanted to do business, they have all the big business classes. And if you're just looking, if you have the electives for your major, they're in there as well. So what we want to say when we talk about satisfied degree requirements is we want to make sure that they're taking relevant exams for their degree path. They can take, every service member and Coast Guard member are eligible to take every exam that we have, or that they have, right? So DSST has like 37 exams, CLEP has 34. They can take every one of those exams, right? They're free. First attempt at each exam is free. They can take those exams. However, if it's not relevant to their degree path, it's kind of like a waste of their time, right? So, and that's where, you know, the counselors and the education service specialists and everybody that has their hands on these service members to be able to counsel them, prepare them for that degree relevant exam, and ensuring that they do take that time to prepare. And we'll get into that in a minute, but it's just very, very important that we are firm. Yeah, you can take any exam you want. Yes, there's a credit by exam that you can take. Yes, you can satisfy your degree requirements. However, you know, let's not take all 60 of them, right? Let's find the ones that fit for you. And just one more note on that is, you know, there's talk that, hey, we don't want them to not go to college. Some of these things they need to go to school for. I wholeheartedly agree. I think that, you know, you should take as many classes as you can. However, service members are behind the power curve when it comes to their civilian counterparts. And these exams and the military training evaluation program, or ACE, those are ways that they can quickly catch up to their civilian counterparts, right? So to take these classes in lieu of using tuition assistance, which, you know, now in the Navy, you can't even use until you've been in for 36 months or 3 years, and then you have to re-enlist to be able to use it. So, I mean, those kind of like restrictions that are coming in, there aren't any restrictions on these. Like these are still like, please take our money. We're still offering these exams to service members. So I'm not saying that they're going to be able to get their, you know, degrees just by taking these credit by exams, but they're going to get pretty close. And, you know, that gives them a leg up on advancement and preparing for themselves for a civilian career. Because, you know, I know for a fact, being a career counselor, people aren't going to retire, or not everybody's going to retire. So anyway, I'll stop beating that dead horse, but it's, you know, preparation and relevancy is key. So these exams are available for active duty guard, reserve components, U.S. Coast Guard Reserve, and Coast Guard spouses. So that's kind of cool for you guys. You guys actually pay for, you know, not only the Coast Guard service members, but their spouses. So, and that's really great. And we have, you know, codes in our system when they register just specifically for them to use and to identify those as spouses and Coast Guard service members. So I think that's really cool of the Coast Guard that they do that. We also, well, not we, but we also support the U.S. Air Force's civilian program. So all their DoD civilians are able to use tuition assistance, you know, civilian tuition assistance, which covers the cost of these credit by exams. So, and now the MyCAA eligible spouses. So MyCAA stands for My Career Advancement Account, which is like a scholarship that when I say eligible spouses, it's very, very limited on who can use it, right? And it's based off a pay grade. So if your spouse that's in the military is like E1 to E3 or 5, they can use the program, but E6 and above can't. So E6, 7, 8, 9 can't use it. Those spouses can't. And then like officers O1 to O2, those spouses can use the program. And then W1 and W2, they can use, spouses of those individuals can use the program. So they actually get the scholarship money, and then it comes out of that scholarship money, which they provide me money, and then again I pay the bills for them, so, and provide them reports. So that's another way that spouses can use this education benefit. So it's pretty cool. So how do we take these credit by exams, or how do service members and spouses take these credit by exams? Well, they go to national testing centers, right? And they're offered worldwide because they're everywhere. They're on and off base. And when I mean on off base, meaning like a college could be a national testing center, because they can partner with the vendors, Prometric and College Board, and they can have a testing center, their national testing center, and service members and Coast Guard spouses can go to these nationally testing centers. And it's just like going on base to a national testing center. When you register, you're going to register for your exam the same way you would if you're going to go on base, right? So If there's not an on-base national testing center for Coast Guard service members or spouses, then they can use the off-base option, right? And I know for a fact, because we have a little Coast Guard station here on NAS Pensacola. So when you guys are attached to any base, you can use that national testing center that's on that base. It's not just strictly for Navy sailors or Air Force members or Army folks. Just because it's on that base, they're there to test every eligible service member and spouse. So please relay that to your folks so they know that they can use those testing centers. So basically the relationship with those education centers, they help with the preparation and counseling when it comes to like the relevancy and making sure that they're studying and letting them know that, hey, here's the study guides. This is where you find the free preparation, and make sure that you're studying, right? So that they're going to be successful when they take these exams. So that's the national testing centers, right? And I know for a fact that Coast Guard, you guys, some of your sectors are like super far away. And I'm talking like 6 hours away from a national testing center. So we'll talk about that here in a second. So what we're talking about today, we're talking about remote testing. And why are we talking about remote testing, right? Because we wanted to have another option to provide greater access to these credit by exams, right? So we're specifically targeting sites or bases or areas or wherever service members are located with no or limited access to national testing centers. And prime example is Sault Ste. Marie for the Coast Guard. Those folks up there are super far away from any national testing center. And then also to use the Air Force, there's a group of Air Force service members that are in the middle of Australia. So they're like days away from from a testing center. So this is why remote testing is an option, right? So it was also really good to have it like right as COVID-19 was like at its peak, because we went from like 98% of national testing centers on base being fully active in testing to 3%, which means, or 1%, which means there was 3 national testing centers that were operating, and they were actually overseas. So, you know, right on time, remote testing came in and helped out with that. And then we're also talking about those downrange and extremely remote locations. Like I said, with Australia, we're talking about, you know, the folks that are in Afghanistan, Iraq, those people that are like super remote and away from, you know, any kind of traditional testing center. So remote testing accommodates all time zones, right? So, you know, a lot of people can go test. Like you might have a job in the military where your boss might be like, go ahead and take your exam at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Well, some of us work till 6. So, and then the testing center is not testing at 6 o'clock, or you have one testing center that you can go to and they only test on Thursdays at 4, right? And they only have 6 spots. So, I mean, there are examples of that everywhere where it's very limited to get to a national testing center or even test somewhere, right? So remote testing accommodates these time zones, and they support the service members' pursuit of educational goals with those crazy schedules that they might not be able to do it, right? They might not be able to make it to a national testing center. So the testing agencies, they own their own programs, right? So we don't have any dealings with how they do their remote testing. We just know how it works, right? And each testing agency has their own platforms that they use to accommodate remote testing, right? For people to actually use this program. Now, we conducted some pilots to make sure that this works, and what we focused on was counseling and preparedness, which I'm gonna keep talking about because it's very important, right? That they get the counseling they need on which exam to take, and then they have time to prepare. And I reached out to Donna because Donna Dulberg, she reached out to me a few years ago and said, hey, these sectors are so far away from NTCs. Can you try to find some? And I did. I was like searching every tool that I had in my toolbox to find these testing locations for these Coast Guard service members, I couldn't find anything. So, and the first person I thought of when I was just like, dude, I got to find some really remote places, or where service members can't get these exams. And I was like, oh, you know what, I'm going to Donna. So she gave me some names and some locations, and Kodiak, Alaska was one of them, with Velma Vining. She was awesome in helping do this. We had an Air Force base, Travis Air Force Base out in California, that had their NTC just quit. They just up and left the base, and the nearest national testing center for them was like 60 miles away. So they helped out, and then there was a couple Army National Guard bases that did it. So the lessons learned that we got from these remote locations really helped us in knowing like how remote testing is going to work. And this is Matt Schwantz's explanation of how remote testing works, right? So you need an internet connection, which can be Wi-Fi. You need a personal computer, right? And it cannot be an Apple product for the CLEP exam. They don't have the software for Apple products, but DSST does. So you need a personal computer, and we'll just say personal, we'll say PC or an HP or something like that. And then you have to have a private room, because you cannot use a government computer, because each proctoring software has its own lockdown browser, which restricts the tester from going to any other browser for cheating and stuff. So that has to be downloaded onto the computer before you take your exam. You cannot do that on a government computer. So we learned that. And then we also learned that Velma, she actually got kicked out of the room because she had this room, and the proctor came on and totally said, hey, you need to leave the room. So we know we have to have a private room, and you just have to have that internet connection. So those are the three things that makes remote testing work. So private room, internet connection, and a personal computer. That's it. That's all these service members need to take a CLEP or DSST exam when it is convenient for them, right? And we'll talk about scheduling here in a second. So we did another pilot for two extremely remote downrange locations, right? They were reaching out, trying to get the mobile testing team out there. Couldn't do it because that's like red tape contracts. This college wants to do it, that college wants to do it. And I said, hey, let's try remote testing. I talked to the people in those remote locations, and I said, do you guys have Wi-Fi? And they said, yeah. And I said, do your service members have their own personal computers? And they're like, oh yeah, they bring their personal devices. I said, okay, great. Are they in a barracks or like a tent or anything like that? They said, yeah, they have their own thing. I said, well, if they can get on your Wi-Fi with their personal computers, and they can be in a private room, they can take these exams. And bam, both locations, I mean, we're talking like super remote, were able to take tests and be successful. So it works, and this is what it was designed to do. So so now you're talking about folks that like are no national testing center within like thousands of miles, and they're taking credit by exams. Okay, so that's why this program is super, super important and needs to be utilized. So we launched the remote, we helped the vendors launch in spring of 2021. So really, it's only been out for a year, right? So a little over a year. So DSST came on first, and CLEP came on second, and they've been rolling out tests ever since. Okay, so what we don't want to do is kill any kind of national testing center on a base, right? We don't want to be able to, we don't want the NTCs to think, oh, we got remote testing, so we don't need us. No, we need you, because there's a lot of reasons why we need those national testing centers. One, for the counseling and the preparation support. Two, because not everybody has a computer. Not everybody has, like, I'm an Apple guy, so I can't, if I want to take a CLEP, I can't take a CLEP on my MacBook, right? So I need a place to still go to take my test. And that's what they're there for. So, that's for people that not everybody wants to do a remote test. Not everybody feels comfortable doing that at home, right? So still want to keep that NTC model going. It's definitely an option for those without NTC access. It augments the proctoring schedules for site administrators. So you have those people that are like, yeah, we're going to test on Thursdays at 4 o'clock. That's an actionable example. I had an Army National Guard ESO come up and talk to me when I was doing a presentation for their PDI a couple of years back and said, can I proctor these exams because my NTC will only do it at 4 o'clock on Thursdays. He's like, who's got time for that, right? Well, some people do have time for that, but for those that don't, this is, remote testing. Tell them to go remote testing. That's my answer. Like when everybody says, oh man, we couldn't get into the NTC, are you telling them about remote testing? They have this as an option. It's available to them and it's free. Take our money, take the Coast Guard's money, right? You guys are giving it to us to pay for their exams. So please tell these people to start taking these exams. It really helped us through COVID because even now there are still some NTCs that either aren't open or shut down permanently on bases. And Norfolk is a prime example where, in Norfolk, if you guys have ever been to Norfolk, that's a gigantic base, right? You're talking Little Creek, you're talking about everything, right? So those places shut down and the option was remote testing, right? Yeah, we're still trying to get an NTC on that base, and I think they actually were able to get one on there. However, remote testing, it's there. Like, hey, the NTC shut down. I guess I'm taking this at home, right? So that's a continuation of testing. We were talking about future pilots being considered, and those are on ships, right? And that's kind of good for you guys too, because you guys go on deployments on your ships. And so I have been working with a couple aircraft carriers, folks out there, and a small boy through the Navy. It's tough though, because just like you guys should know, the internet is intermittent when you're out to sea, right? And sometimes they close off the tier levels for those folks that don't have the upper level access. So it is the same as if you're taking an exam and it stops on you. You can take it. You can pick up where you left off if the internet goes down. We're not there yet for the Navy ships, but if anybody, if the Coast Guard wants to, reach out to me and see if we could do something like that on a ship, I am more than happy to float that up to my chain of command and start working that. So definitely something for you guys to think about. Okay, so now we're going to get into the actual physical, what the testing agencies, their actual proctoring software, right? So this is straight from DSST and Prometric. It's not me doing these numbers, right? So see, and I just want to say I'm looking at the chat and it says, will remote testing be expanded to SAT and ACT and other exams? That's a great question. Unfortunately, those exams aren't even really computer-based just yet. And there is talks with College Board that and it's out in the news. So the SAT is coming on as a computer-based test. And I'm in the process of renewing that contract with CLEP, and we stopped providing the SAT exam or paying for it. And now we're putting it back into our contract once it goes computer-based training or computer-based testing, so that it could be offered. It might possibly be offered at an NTC. Now, remote testing, I don't know. That's like way in the future. So I don't know. That's on the vendors to talk about. But trust me, those are questions that we ask all the time, because any access to these exams or any exams would be great. So, okay, hopefully that answers the question, Donna. Remote testing is available for spouses, absolutely. And you know what? Let me talk about that before I go into this. Remote testing is under our CLIN 1, which is basically our fully funded exam. It pays for the exam and it pays for the proctoring fee. So anybody that's eligible to take a credit by exam, so DoD, Coast Guard, and Coast Guard spouses, my CA, all of those people, any eligible individual that can take advantage of the DANTES sponsored exam can take a remote test. So yes, they can take remote tests as well. And just to talk about the remote test real quick, if any of you guys, like all my degrees are online, like all my associates, my bachelor's, my master's, all of them are from online, right? So I took a lot of finals and midterms where I had to use a camera. I had to, have a lockdown browser, just like I'm sure some of you guys probably did too. I had to show them like the room, and there's nobody here with me. I don't have my book. I don't have anything else. There's nothing on the walls. It's the exact same process, right? With one catch. They have to show their military CAT card to the proctor to verify that it is them who's taken the exam, right? So that's how we verify military service members and their spouses. Like, yes, I got in there as a Coast Guard spouse. Here's my dependent ID card. So, both vendors know about both CACs and dependent ID cards. Those are like written into the contracts. So hopefully that answers that question. Yes, remote testing is available for spouses. So that's great. Great news for everybody. Totally. Use the program. Please take the money. Please take these tests, right? So we're gonna get into DSST now. Their software is, and how they do remote testing is called ProProctor, right? So they launched that in March. That's actually when we did the pilot programs for DSST with Velma and the Air Force. Definitely provides additional access. It supports the gaps in delivery areas. Those are the numbers for DSST for last year, right? Fiscal year 11,671. I would tell you the Coast Guard, a fraction of that, a tiny fraction of that, right? And of course, the biggest user of the credit by exam program is the Air Force, and they're like 90% of all credit by exams are taken by the Air Force. Because it augments their CCAF education, and it also helps them promote. So they are a huge user of these exams. So out of those 11,600, 423 were delivered via ProProctor, right? And the pass rate, which is kind of cool, is it's actually higher than doing at a test center. We attribute that to it being, you're at your home, you're in the comfort of your own home, you could be in your PJs, and we say PJs. I mean, of course, you're probably going to wear a suit when you're taking your test like everybody else does. Just kidding. But yeah, it's just a little bit more convenient, and maybe the anxiety is a little lower. So it's great that we're seeing, and of course the numbers are super low. So I mean, the pass rates are going to be high too. So, but it's pretty good that they are comparative to, or if not higher to, the actual NTC rate. Yeah, so you can't. Hopefully you can see that at getcollegecredit.com. It made it green in there. But this is how you sign up, right? This is how easy it is, and it seems hard, but it's not. It's super easy, right? Especially if I can do it. Low QT over here. I can do this. You go to the getcollegecredit.com website. You navigate to find a test center. That's at the top, right, on the website. Once you go in to find a test center, like that's basically saying I need to find a test center to take this test. So you go in there, it opens up this page, and you can take. It'll say, do you want to take a test at a national testing center, and then you can search for the one that's closest to you, or do you want to take a remotely proctored exam? So you just hit that button. It takes you to the ProScheduler website, right? And you use that tool to schedule your exam, the ProScheduler website. And how that works is, this is kind of good, because you're not going to be able to take that test today. A service member or spouse is not going to be able to take that credit by exam today, because there has to be a proctor available with that test at the same time. And these proctors are certified from the vendors, right? So it's not like Matt Schwantz's proctor these exams, or anybody at Dantes, right? That's not happening. They have their own proctors who are, professionals in their own right, and they're paid to do this. They're trained to do that. So, but there has to be an exam that matches up with that proctor. And that's another thing I forgot to mention, that the Air Force, when we had those lesson learns, they actually, one person was not able to schedule the exam they wanted to for like 2 weeks, which, you know, the guy was kind of, the service member was kind of upset about, but at the same time, I'm like, well, that's great, because if he didn't prepare, now he's got 2 weeks to prepare, right? And that's only for different certain exams. So that are, you know, and you just have to go onto the schedule website and find like, okay, I want to take human resource management, right? So today's Wednesday, the 15th, payday, right? So, and then maybe the first available is, you know, Sunday at 3 o'clock. So, you know, hey, I'm not at work, I can take this on Sunday at 3 o'clock. Perfect. I'm going to schedule that exam. I'm going to register for it. Everything's great. I'm going to get the free preparation material. I'm going to study for that exam and take that exam. Hopefully they're pushing it out longer than 3 days, but you know, that's how it works. You can also schedule it for like next month. If you want to take the exam next month, you want to give yourself a month to prepare, you can do that too. So, but what's great about it is you're not going to be able to take that exam today. It's just not going to happen, right? Because everything's already filled up. So hopefully I'm not beating that dead horse. But yeah, so, and then the number 5, study and prepare for your exam. Study and prepare. You should be able to schedule this far in advance that you have time to prepare. So, and that should be, you know, instilled in these service members and spouses. Hey, just don't go in there blind to take these exams, right? Because you only get one chance. We only pay for one. Coast Guard only pays for one, right? So there you go. The next one's on you. So, and then they have to pay out of pocket. So technical requirements for DSST Pro Proctor is you have to have a private room, you have to have a personal computer, you can have a Mac or a PC, you must have a webcam and speakers, it can be integrated into the computer, and then you have to have that internet connection. It's got to be hardwire or Wi-Fi. Bam, that's it. That's all you got to do, right? So it's super easy. So I'm going to look at the chat. Is this or will this be available for Coast Guard civilians? That's something that you got to ask the Coast Guard. I don't have anything to do with that. What is the wait time to get a proctor for a test for DSST or CLEP? It'll tell you on the scheduling. It'll tell you when you go to schedule your exam. It'll tell you when it's available. And like I said, it could be available in the next 2 days, or it might not be available for 2 weeks, right? But you're definitely going to be able to schedule that exam that you want. How long are these exams? We would have to block off our learning centers. Well, if you're learning, you can't have a bunch of people in a learning center and do this. So unless your learning center has a bunch of private rooms that they're going to be in with personal computers, you know, that's the only way they're going to be able to do that. And these exams are as long as the ones that are in the NTC. You know, it can be anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. So, I'm just going to let you guys know that I live right on the flight line for NAS, and the Blue Angels are practicing. So if you hear a bunch of loud noise, that's the Blue Angels flying over my house. So yeah, so hopefully that answers that question, Ozzy. And maybe I didn't make that very clear. You can't do this in an open room. You can't have 5 testing folks in an open space taking a proctored exam. You can't do that. They have to have their own private room. And that's what we found out with the Air Force Base as well. Like, you know, he was going to do this in the room, and they were like, no. So they ended up just taking them at home, the volunteers that did it, and they all did well. So yeah, just remember that they have to have a private room. They cannot be in an open bay taking these exams. Okay, this is a lot of information for Prometric, but this is basically explaining like what exams are available for DSST. And I will say every exam is available for DSST except the Principles of Public Speaking. And I'm working with them right now. They're telling me that they have the technology to do it because it's a 2-part test. You have to take the exam, and then you have to do, you know, the speech part where you're actually given the speech. So they're working on that software right now to do that for remote testing. So that exam is coming, which is going to be a lifesaver, because I will tell you, that is my number one issue with DSST and customer service, is that Principles of Public Speaking, because it has to be like 100% correct in that national testing center. The computer has to have, you know, they have to follow the rules to the T in order to give that exam. And a lot of times it's like operator error for this exam, which means, you know, I hate to put it on the operator error for the test administrator, but, you know, and also I want to put it on Prometric for making it so difficult to do. But it is coming for remote testing, so hopefully that'll, you know, negate all of those issues that we have. So their exams are recommended by ACE. You know, all of their exams, they hold that recommendation. It's great. They do upper and lower level credits. Now these are accepted by over 1,900 colleges, right? So that's great. And the top 10 colleges where most of the tuition, military tuition assistance is spent, all of those exams or all of those colleges take both CLEP and DSST credits. So that's really great news. So yeah, there's 1,900 colleges, but you know, most military service members are only using about 8 of those. So, and Prometric has their own test centers that they have out in town that people can go to, and they're eligible to take, you know, and these test centers are really just for military service members to take the exam. So let's see. So their Pro Proctor is really super simple. It's really not that difficult. And they really did develop and innovate that remote proctoring that really helps out, right? And they do, you know, Prometric, the DSST exam is really like a tiny little blip on their radar. They do so many other exams for, you know, credentialing, for, you know, hospital workers. They do so many other exams, and they do use Pro Proctor. You know, and DSST was an old platform, so they really, and I will say this, I'll put my program manager hat on. As a program manager, yeah, hey, they are in it for the service member. They want to provide easy access for their exams, right? And then I put my core hat on, and I know that they're a company and they want to sell these exams, right? But I will tell you that they are very sincere when it comes to service members and getting exams to them. What is the wait time to get a proctor to test for? You would have to go on ProScheduler and the other scheduling that we'll talk about here for CLEP here in a minute. That I can't tell you the times. They're going to have to go on there and check and see what the time would be. Let's see. So it's super secure. Like I said, you have to download their lockdown browser. So there's no cheating going on with this. So there's their operating requirements, and they can actually go and download prior to taking their exam to make sure that it works on their computers. So these are the security that they have, right? So they detect keystroke detection. They totally make sure that they know that it's the right person taking that exam. And then any movement. So if there's anything behind them, if somebody's in the room, it's going to pick it up and it's going to cancel their exam. And I don't know if there's been any kind of, I mean, I could probably reach out to Prometric and ask if there's been any cheating, but they haven't said anything. So I don't, you know, I'm assuming, and I speculate that there hasn't been any issues. So, and I will say this, that either Prometric or College Board, those exams, if they can't make it, if they schedule an exam and they can't do it, it just goes away. They don't get charged, they're penalized. We don't pay for that exam. It just cancels itself out, and they're able to take that exam, you know, fully funded again. So there's some of the experience for the student when they go on there. Sorry, I don't know if you answered the question of these exams available for Coast Guard civilians. The only Coast Guard civilians that can take these are spouses. You guys don't have a program for your Coast Guard GS employees to take these. That's not, I don't know if that's an option. I know that I don't pay the bills. If you guys have that, I don't know about it. So that's something that you would have to bring up to your chain of command for Coast Guards civilians. we'll talk about the study materials here in a second for both CLEP and DSST. So here's the CLEP information on their stuff. They are super big on serving the military and providing these exams. They have 34 subjects, and obviously they, you know, exactly what we talked about earlier. They advance your college education. They help you in your degree, obtaining your degree path, or you know, taking exams to help you advance in the military. So they're definitely here for the service member. Remote proctoring. So they have a lot of test centers worldwide, right? So there's not an issue with taking a CLEP somewhere. ProctorTrack's their sole provider. That's what they use. That's the software. That's the company that does their. I know it's kind of similar with ProProctor and ProctorTrack, but it's two totally different browsers. Actually, ProctorTrack is like a subcontractor for College Board, whereas ProProctor is owned by Prometric. That is their software. Now, CLEP also, you know, we talk about this all the time. Like they, you know, the number one way for people to take these exams is through a national testing center, right? Because you can't assume that everybody has a computer or has a way of taking an exam like in a private room or something like that. So, you know, national testing centers are definitely needed. Technical requirements for CLEP, same thing, with one caveat is that they have to have a Windows-based computer, no Apple products, right? So they need a private room, they need that Windows-based computer, it can have the speaker and microphone and webcam all included, they can have an erasable whiteboard in the room, and they have to have that internet connection, whether hardwired or Wi-Fi. And this is how they sign up, right? So they go and they select their exam at College Board. They're going to sign into the My Account, make themselves an account with CLEP. They're going to select their preferred testing center, and all they have to do is choose via remote proctoring, right? They register, check out, and then they schedule that exam with ProctorTrack. And it's the same kind of process with ProctorTrack. Is you're going to find an exam, your exam on a date that's convenient for you and the proctor, and then you're going to schedule that exam, right? And then you're going to download the ProctorTrack app to the download browser so that you can test the requirements on your computer. It's that simple, right? And there's no errors. There's no big deal. If they sign up for an exam and it you know, this is the exam I wanted to take, you can just let it cancel and it's going to be okay, right? Yeah, you can get a hold of College Board and say, hey, I accidentally signed up for this exam, and they're going to tell you, hey, it'll just cancel in the system, right? So there you go. Let's see. Here's remote proctoring for them. They kind of did it a little differently. So the yellow part is the remote proctoring, which is good, and their pass rates for their remote proctoring exams is higher than the actual national average. So it's also, you know, we also attest that to maybe it's because they're in the privacy of their own home, you know, and they're more comfortable doing that. So yeah, so hey, they are always asking institutions to become a DANTES funded test site, right? So, and that's the key, is when you find these test sites, it's got to be a DANTES funded test site, which means they offer CLEP and DSST exams, which fall under the fully funded test fee only or the OCONUS. Whereas, and remember this, that it comes out of the fully funded exam fee, which is $119 right now for both CLEP and a DSST, which covers the cost of the exam and the cost of the proctoring fee, and that is for remote proctoring, right? Fully funded also is for an NTC. It's the same thing. We're going to pay for the exam and the proctoring fee. Test fee only, just so you guys remember that test fee only, that testing center will only accept the cost of the exam. So DANTES or the Coast Guard will fund the exam, and then it's on the service member to come out of pocket for the proctoring fees. So, remember to tell them, don't take a test fee only exam, take a remote proctored exam. If you can only find a test fee only center and, you don't know about remote proctoring, please let them know that, hey, consider taking a remote proctored exam over a test fee only exam. But if that's their only option, got it, right? But sometimes, I'm telling you, people don't know about this program. It's been out for a year. You saw the low numbers. It's the word is slow moving to get out. So, okay. So let's talk about study material. So when you take a CLEP, right? So we pay for study materials through the contract, right? So I actually get the study guides. So if you guys need study guides or anything like that, please let me know. But we, the service member gets that when they register and we pay for the exam, or the Coast Guard pays for the exam, right? They get a study guide. They get the modern states, which is like, YouTube for so they can actually see the exam or the course being taught, right? So they can watch this exam being taught, and then so they have all the study material they need. Prometric's a little different, right? So Prometric, they are a for-profit company, which means they have preparation material that people can purchase through apps and subscriptions, which I'm not going to say that they should do that or shouldn't do that, but there is free study material, and it's through EBSCO Learning Express, right? So this is a place on Military OneSource, and we have all of this on our website, right? So if I didn't put our website out before, it's you guys just go out to myvoled.com or Dantes, or just Google Dantes, and don't pick the movie, just pick the education place, right? So once you go into EBSCO and you find if you go to DSST, it'll say preparation guides. It'll have a link there, and the service member goes in there. It's Military OneSource. They have to create an account, and they go in there, and then they have access to study guides that have been approved by Prometric for each exam. So, and that's how they can get this free preparation for DSST. Oh, thanks, Aaron. Put the website in there. Will any third-party software be allowed to be installed on Coast Guard workstations to facilitate remote proctoring? Apologize for late questions. Had to step out. So that's what I actually said that in the beginning. I would totally totally be eligible or available to be in that conversation. We were in that conversation 3 years ago with the Navy, and the problem with the Navy is we didn't have the ATO or authority to operate software to do that. And I will tell you, 3 years later, that's still like the issue. Like everything stopped because we had a submarine, we had a small boy, and we had a big deck, an LHD that was going to offer this stuff on ships. That's the hurdle, was the authority to operate on government computers. And that just kind of went away. So if the Coast Guard, if you guys want to set that up or reach out to your leadership and talk about that, I am available. I have tons of information on that, but that's totally out of, I don't know. That's totally on the Coast Guard to allow your workstations to do that. Let's see. Does the study guide have a pre-test so the test taker can see? Yes, there are free pre-tests through Prometric that they can take, and there are pre-tests through College Board that they can take to see what kind of questions would be on the actual test. Look at Aaron coming to my rescue with EBSCO. Did I hit all of the questions? Okay, so let me see. So this is my information, right? So email me and That's my number, that's my work number, but it's forwarded to my personal phone since we're all, 100% teleworking. We have been now for quite some time. But that rings into my personal cell phone. I'm never too busy to answer an email, and I'm never too busy to answer my phone for a service member, okay, or someone that's representing a service member. So that is my primary job, is to be a core, is to manage contracts and do funding documents and renew contracts and blah, 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 right? But my other job is program manager, and that's the side that I get to help out with this and do presentations like these. I'm really hoping that I hit all of the aspects of remote testing. There is no secret. There is no, it's not restricted. There's no issues with service members to take these exams. So remotely. So please, please, please get the word out to service members that this is a feature for them to use that will benefit their degrees and their college goals, educational goals. We want people to start, hey, you know what? Please tell the Coast Guard to start taking exams. Let's just go there, because you guys don't take a lot of, not you guys personally, but the Coast Guard doesn't take a lot of exams. And that could be because you guys aren't like super conveniently located to a national testing center. I know that firsthand. I know that you guys aren't. But this is an option for those service members, those Coast Guard service members and spouses, to utilize to take advantage of these exams, right? So, oh, look at me. I don't mind, Emily, if people want to come off mute and ask questions, or if people want to just text in the chat. So if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Matt, everyone's microphones are available to unmute. So if there are any questions for those in the session right now, please go ahead and feel free to unmute yourself. And we'll give it just a moment here.
Matt, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Did you catch that last question about the best resource to identify the closest NTC?
Yeah, the best resource to identify that would be on the vendor's website. So you can go to CLEP.org, and they have a search function on there where you can type in like your zip code or your location, and it'll pull up all of the testing locations, and it'll tell you if they're DANTES funded, if they're fully funded, if it's a test fee only site. And Prometric has the same thing, like especially where you go to take a take an exam or find a testing center. When you click on that, it'll have that search function right there. That's the best way, because there's hundreds and hundreds of them. So we don't actually have that information at DANTES. All right, well, if there aren't any other questions, I really appreciate you guys letting me do this. Thank you so much, Donna. Just to verify, NTC for CLEP are also for DSST. I'm not sure if I understand. Well, sometimes, yeah, so the NTCs have to go through the vendors to establish themselves on a base, right? We help out with the MOU, but that's definitely between the vendor, Prometric or College Board, and the institution and the base commander, right? So there are NTCs out there that don't offer the DSST, and there are NTCs out there that don't offer the CLEP. But I would say, 90-something% of the time, they are offering both CLEP and DSST. I think that's what you're asking, Travis. Yeah, and hey, if someone has a question and they don't want to ask it here, just email me or call me. Just, you know, if there's anything confusing about remote testing and you know, you just have a question, or you need more information or maybe a little bit more detailed, just email me or call me or reach out and I'll get a hold of you and we'll chat totally. And I talked to a Navy counselor in Singapore. There is no NTC out there, and I talked to him for like an hour and a half on remote testing. So I like I said, I am never too busy to talk to you guys.
Matt, thank you so much for all the great information today. And for those that joined us, we appreciate your time as well today. So I would like to invite everyone to check out our next webinar on OASK next week on the 23rd. I've included that information in the chat section. So again, we just appreciate all of the questions that have come in, and Matt, for all of the information you've shared. So if there are any other questions, please feel free to reach out to Matt directly. Otherwise, also reach out to our DANTES outreach mailbox. We'll include that here in just a moment. But again, we appreciate your time today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Have a great day.